Happy Friday, YouTube family. Welcome to Friday Morning Financials with Nina, where I break down key money management tips to help you achieve your financial goals. I'm your host, Nina. Last week, we completed building the main floor of our financial house with a budget part 2. Today, we are going to start building the second floor of our financial house with debt payoff. Before we get started, I would like to read a little bit from an online news article from CBSNews.com. It says U.S. consumers collectively owe a record of $1.14 trillion in credit card debt. Figures released Tuesday by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York show. That's 27 billion more than the 1.13 trillion in credit card debt they carried during the second quarter of 2024. The high tally comes amid concerns of an economic turndown triggered by modestly rising unemployment and as soaring costs in food, housing, and auto rates continue to drain household budgets. Americans have increasingly been relying on credit cards to make ends meet, with 6 in 10 adults, or 60%, using credit cards to buy groceries in 2023, according to a May report by the Urban Institute. Very interesting stats here. So overall, collectively as Americans, we have more credit card debt ever in history, and this is all still in the midst of some bad economic times that we are currently seeing, with the price of everything rising. Cars, food, even at the hairdressers. I know prices have risen for me, even at the hairdressers. So the price of everything literally is going up. And the best thing that you can do for yourself is have a great budget. Balance your budget, revisiting your budget. That is always key to ensuring that you can keep your head above water and actually be stress-free. All right, so grab your tea and let's get financially savvy. And as always, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment if you enjoy the show. If you have questions on this episode, feel free to drop them in the comments as well. Then tune in for the next episode to hear me address your question. Now let's get started. Over the last episodes, we have talked about how we are building a solid financial home. The first episode, we talked about the foundation of that home with building an emergency fund. It is different than our traditional savings, 401k, and its goal is to keep us safe and stress-free if an emergency happens today or tomorrow. That is our foundation of our house. Next, we started talking about budgeting, part 1 and part 2, how to live within your means, how to make adjustments. That is the main floor of our financial house. And then today, we're going to talk about how to get yourself out of drowning from debt. Okay, we're going to talk about debt payoff today. And that is the second floor of our financial house. My journey to paying off my debt, I researched and found Dave Ramsey's debt snowball method as a guide to where you can pay off your debt from smallest to largest, regardless of the interest rate. So, loved his approach to slowly work on eliminating debt and eventually tackling more debt. So, love that approach. I did tweak my personal approach just a little bit, so I'm going to share that with you today. I would like to do some pauses, suggestions for pausing in the video. So if you want to work while you listen to this podcast, you'll be able to do that. So I'll mention pauses throughout this podcast here as I go through this approach. So the first thing that you need to do is list out all of your debt. If that's credit card debt, if that is student loan, is that a mortgage, first, second mortgage, is it a car loan? Is it a loan out on a boat? Is it a big loan that you have to a family member? List out all of your debts. So regardless of if it is $100, I mean, some people might have $100 on their credit card, up to 20,000, 100,000. Hopefully, it's not at 100,000. For like your credit card, a mortgage is more realistic when you start talking about over $100,000 in debt. But I would say to pause the video here and list out all of your debts. All right. So the first thing that we want to do with that list is for the debts that are equal to 5K and under. We're going to focus on those. So please stop and circle those on your list. Those are the targets that we're going to pay off first. Again, those are all of the debts that are equal to 5,000 and under. We're going to focus on these for a quick win. We don't care about the interest rate. We are just focused on the low dollar amount so we can knock this debt out pretty quick. You are sure to feel more confident in this journey of debt payoff with some quick wins. All right, next for step 2, we are then going to focus on paying at least $5 over the minimum payments required on all of your debt except for the first target payoff. So, what does that mean? That means if you have a car loan, 2 mortgage loans, a credit card payment, and let's just say that the credit card is at 1,000, and so that is the target for your quick payoff from step 1. You will make sure to put more money towards that credit card payoff. But for the other payments, I would like you to pay at least $5 over the minimum payment. Just humor me here. So for the car loan, add an extra $5 towards the principal. If you have an additional credit card with a $10,000 that you owe versus the first 1,000 we talked about, be sure to pay $5 towards the over the minimum balance on that second credit card. And then towards the loans, an additional $5 towards the principal. At least 5. Because you're trying to put in a little nest egg over the minimum payments to slowly but surely start knocking down that credit down. It's not a lot, but trust me, a little bit over time, you're going to start seeing a difference. And if you can afford to do more than $5, that extra money again should be targeted on your first payoff. So in this case, we're talking about $1,000 on a credit card. Focus on that. All right. So I would suggest to take a pause here. That is a review of step 2. and I would just take a few notes on your notepad of making sure that you do $5 over the minimum payments on all of your extra debt except for that first target payoff. So then, when you go into your budget, you're going to be adding in that extra $5 over the minimum payment over those bills. So pause here. Next, for step 3, I would suggest that you pay as much as you can on your first target payoff. So I've already talked about this a little bit, but that first target payoff that we're talking about on a credit card of $1,000, we're going to put all of our extra money towards paying that off so we can knock that out and be done with it. So if it is a credit card that is a thousand, 5,000K or less, focus on that one first, looking for quick wins. Okay. And then step 4, focus on the debts with higher interest rate. So once you knocked out all of the debt that is, I'll say, pretty small and more feasible and not as not a heap of money, so more manageable. Okay, so once we've eliminated all of the debt past 5K, then we start focusing on the remaining debt with a higher interest rate. Most likely that is probably another credit card if you have one, most likely. Or it could also be your car loan, student loan. Focus on those next. Which one has the higher interest rate? Once you knock that out, then you move on to the next one with the next highest interest rate. So again, after you have paid off all of the first initial targets with the under 5K, then you are trying to work your way up to the worst case interest rate. You attack the worst case interest rate. Why? It may take some time, so you have to be patient. But once you knock that out, you have over time saved more money in interest that you've paid or could have paid. And then also, in some cases, that payment, once you eliminate it, it just frees up so much money to go towards the next thing. So that is why I would encourage you to focus on, I wouldn't say, regardless of the interest rate, I would target those interest rates that are high and work your way there. Okay, so I would pause it here. If you have any notes to take for your budget allocation to pay off those debts, I would make a list of you already have your list of all of the debt payoff that you have, and then I would just prioritize it 1 through 10. This is the first one I need to focus on, second, third, etc., until you have a plan for how you are going to attack this debt payoff. Okay, so I'm going to provide some tips for paying off your debt. The first one is, while you are going through this process, do not use your credit cards. You do not want your efforts to be counteractive, okay? So cut yourself off of the credit cards. If you have $1,000 on one credit card and $10,000 on another credit card, stop using them. This is also going to force you into using money that you have. So, over the years, in I'll say mastering my financial freedom, I have focused on only using my credit cards when I can pay it back in 30 days. But we are in a crunch time period where we're trying to get some quick wins, and using your credit cards will be counteractive. So that's tip 1. Tip 2, do not add any more debt anywhere. We'll call this the freezing stage. Okay? This building the second floor of your financial house is the freezing phase. We are not going to go out and buy a boat. We are not going to take on another student loan. We are not going to borrow money from our parents that we need to pay them back. No more added debt. All at a freezing point. Until we can get our debt payoff managed and in a good spot, so where we can free up some more funds, we're not even going to entertain adding more debt. Okay? And then you already have an emergency fund. So if any emergencies come up, you focus on that. And you still have your wants fund, so you do have some flexibility to spend money on some things that you want. But ultimately, the high dollar items, we'll wait on those later. We'll come back to that. The last and third tip, so make sure you focus on those quick wins first. It is going to make you feel good. It is going to make you feel like you're making progress. It is going to make you feel like this is possible. Even though this is a big task, if you are patient, this is going to show you that your efforts will be well worth it. Then we're going to focus on the meat. It will show you improvement. So when you get into that debt past the 5K and with the high interest rates, that is taking a lot of your I'll say extra money in your budget, with that eating up at that, you're gonna, once you eliminate that, you're gonna see improvement. And then you will be in a good spot after you do that. And then lastly, I would say focus on your mortgage payoff. It is something that to me isn't the highest priority, because if you are some ways from retirement, you really don't have to worry about paying it off tomorrow. It will be nice to pay it off by the time you are ready to retire. So just make sure that you make a plan for that. But at this point, once you pay off all your debt, you should feel more stress free. You should have more money to access for savings. And then, depending on how you balance your budget, you might have a little bit more for um, your personal wants if you want to bump it up to 30%. No one's situation is the same. So that's why I like, when I did my research, I was able to pick and choose the methods that work the best for me, and then make any tweaks if I needed to cater to my own situation. And I would encourage you to do the same. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Friday Morning Financials with Nina. I hope you found today's discussion on the second floor of your financial house, debt payoff, insightful and inspiring. Remember, financial freedom is within your reach, and every small step you take brings you closer to your goals. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends and family. Your support helps me continue to bring valuable financial insights each and every week. And don't forget to check out the rest of my YouTube channel, Endless Fridays, where we also share travel tips and inspiration to help you live like every day is Friday. Don't forget to tune in next week at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for our episode on expenses you will always have. It's an episode you will not want to miss. Until then, stay financially savvy and have a fantastic weekend. Okay, I gotta pause that.